Hi, it's Lynn Pierce from the Office restaurant in Cabo San Lucas. We're here on Medano Beach. It's Saturday morning, and it's a beautiful, beautiful day. This is such a great time of year, May. It's one of the most perfect months as far as weather. May and November are my two most perfect times to be here. Not as many tourists in May and November as a lot of the other months of the year. We do have a big summer here because it's not as hot and humid as a lot of other places. So people from the warmer states in the U.S. and from the places in Mexico that are really hot come here in the summer. And of course, when kids are off school, like I have a feeling they are right now, there's kids here, so it's a big family vacation spot. So, waiter spilled the coffee. So anyway, we'll wait just a minute to get started here going into our topic. If you missed part one of our breast cancer story, it's breast cancer, the whole story, prevention, during and after my story from 18 years ago, and things that I've learned since. You can find last week's episode, which was part one of this, at agelesslifestyleafter50.com/cancer story. And there you'll also find a lot of resources and other articles, a radio show that I did where I talked about more about my mindset and the particulars of the different treatments that I did. Everything that I did was alternative. It was literally everything I could possibly find to do in the small town that I was in of Cabo 18 years ago. So I tried a little bit of everything, and I had my own plan as well. And then friends and even strangers were coming to me saying, hey, I know somebody that does this. Do you want to try it? So since there was no harm in all those things that I tried, I did everything that showed up, because you just never know exactly what's going to be the thing that works or what combination of things are going to be the things that work. And at the time, I was just flying by the seat of my pants, kind of, with almost 20 years of studying health and nutrition and the mind-body connection, so it wasn't totally by the seat of my pants, and also my belief system about how our minds work and where disease comes from and things like that. So it was a little bit of everything, but that's covered more in depth on the radio show. So I just want to take a minute to recap what we talked about last week, since this is a two-part thing. And the reason I'm doing it in May and not October is that May is my breast cancer month. And I do not take part or endorse most of the, like 95 or 99% of what goes on in October. I personally think we're all pretty aware of cancer, and that money needs to be going towards things that can actually help prevent cancer, rather than lining the pockets of corporations and charities. That it's their biggest promotion month, their biggest money-making month, by turning everything pink. If you investigate that a little bit more online, you'll see that a lot of it is just scam. And I've wrote about that, the whole pink thing. on my blog, I think a couple years ago, and also posted other articles about why people that have had cancer, especially people that have done their own solutions to it, do not support what goes on in October. It's just turned into one big corporate ad campaign. But anyway, that's off topic. I wanted to just recap what the three biggest takeaways were for me looking back with 18 more years of knowledge than where I started in the first place. And first of all, your beliefs are one of the major keys, because your beliefs about yourself, about what's possible, about what your belief is about cancer, about the prognosis, about surviving cancer, all of those things are a major factor. So your belief system is huge. The second thing is that your state of health going into the whole thing is huge. You can't prepare for the diagnosis. When the diagnosis comes, it's usually out of the blue. It's unexpected. So you can't go back and rewind 10 years and change your lifestyle and change your eating habits and change your stress level and change environmental things that are in your control. So you have to take it from where you are and make those shifts at that point. But if you're not someone that has already been diagnosed, start today. Don't wait. Don't ever think that you're too young. I was 43, and the percentage of women being diagnosed with breast cancer before 40 is increasing tremendously. So I don't even think there is a too young anymore. Got a frog in my throat. The third thing is that when this comes, you're going to have to make some really clear decisions, and you're going to have to make decisions quickly. So it's important that you are someone that is already successful at having clarity and having focus and having the ability to set and accomplish goals, because getting through this is going to be the biggest goal you've ever taken on, because your life depends on it in a lot of cases. So the better practiced you are at those processes of having clarity and focus and setting and achieving goals, the easier it will be for you to hit the ground running. And like I said, everything that we talked about last week, all the resources on agelesslifestyleafter50.com/cancer story. Last week we talked about what led to me getting a mammogram at 43 in the first place, my initial thoughts and processes after the diagnosis. Hi, Silviano. Thanks for joining us this morning. And then also the changes that I made, the fact that the fears of other people didn't influence what I was doing because of my belief system and all the things that I knew were right for me to do. And that's something I was thinking about this morning as I was getting ready. I was thinking, you know what? I don't have anyone in my life that eats the way I do. I don't have anyone in my life that lives the way I do as far as lifestyle and habits and all that practices. And I don't have anyone in my life that has the belief system that I have. So it's always been a solitary journey for me. And that's where your values come in, your strength of character, your conviction in your beliefs, the alignment within yourself of who you are and what's right for you. And so all of those things are personal decisions. But when you're in a place where, I've been doing more research and found that only 15% of breast cancer diagnosis now have any hereditary connection, that 85% have something to do with environmental toxins, whether it's toxins in your home in the form of chemicals, in your environment in the form of chemicals. I mean, we all know what happened in Flint, Michigan with undrinkable water. There are an awful lot of places in the United States that have undrinkable water where it's not safe. Pollution, all kinds of other things in the outside environment that some of those you can't control unless you decide to move. But the things you can control are the chemicals that you invite into your home through cleaning products and other things that you use. The same thing with chemicals in your personal care products that are also avoidable. And in the foods that we eat, when I think of how many people I know that are sincerely trying to get healthier by eating healthier processed foods, and they just don't know. They've never gone through the produce section. They've never picked up a head of broccoli. They wouldn't know what to do with it if they did. And so you got to start where you are. And taking baby steps is better than taking no steps at all. So it's one step at a time, doing what you know to do, researching and learning more. And any questions that you have about having a healthier lifestyle, having a healthier home, really, I would invite you to send me a personal message on Facebook, or those of you that are on my email list, send me an email, whatever questions you have. And I think I mentioned this last week that I get products delivered right to my door that don't have formaldehyde, don't have parabens, cleaning products that don't have formaldehyde, ammonia, bleach, all the toxins. Did you know, aside from cancer, that the vast majority, I don't remember exactly what the percentage was that I read, but it was huge. It was like, I think over 80% of asthma and allergies come from toxins in the home. So it's so important that we clean out our environments. That goes a long way with prevention, as well as eating clean, eating whole foods, eating real food, and when you can, eating organic foods. It all plays a part. And the other major part is stress. And so having a spiritual practice that centers you in the morning, prayer, meditation, yoga, breathing exercises, anything that you can do to have less stress in your life, or learning how to handle the stress in your life better. Those are all really, really important things that are definitely within your control that you can change today. So now the rest of the story, continuing on from part one, the changes that I made, I think at the end I mentioned that I went to the iridologist. And if anybody doesn't know what iridology is, it's someone that is what I call a doctor. Technically, they're not a doctor, but they look at your eyes and they can see things that are going on in your body, even things that have gone on in your life. Like if you broke something or you had some physical ailment, they can see that in your eyes. And they prescribe, vitamins, herbs, holistic things to take care of whatever's going on in your body. So when I was diagnosed, I called called her and said, this is what's going on. I don't think that I'm going to die. I think this is a big wake-up call. But just in case at some point I do have to have surgery, I want to make sure that my body is as prepared for surgery and is prepared to heal quickly as possible. So I changed and added, I had like a whole sheet when I wrote it all out, all the things that I was taking of vitamins, herbs, and homeopathic remedies, besides cutting additional foods out of my diet. Oh, one thing that I didn't mention, I did mention last week that as soon as I found out that for one thing, sodas, the aspartame and the artificial sweeteners in sodas, when they're exposed to heat, can turn to formaldehyde. And that was a big factor in so many people getting sick during the first Gulf War. That was, I think, maybe the first time that they noticed that connection. And other studies that have been done about artificial sweeteners, especially aspartame, that you need to get that stuff out of your life. I quit cold turkey. No more sweeteners in my coffee or in my iced tea, which was the only place I was using them. And then finding out how many places in packaged foods those artificial sweeteners are, where you would least expect them. When I get protein powder, even vegan protein powder, you still have to look and make sure that they're not putting any artificial sweeteners in there. The other thing was that I ate a lot of soy substitute meats, like soy burgers and hot dogs and bacon and chicken patties and all kinds of things. I didn't know any better at the time. I didn't even really think about it. When I stopped eating meat, I switched over to all those other things, which I thought were a better alternative, only to find out that those weren't great either. And there's a good chance that eating all that stuff also contributed to the cancer for me. But like I've said before, I think that the first place to clean house is mentally and emotionally, along with physically, cleaning things out of your house to make a healthier environment. Because in my belief system, dis-ease starts up here. And then if it goes on long enough up there, then it manifests physically in your body. So in my mind, if I had something to do with creating it, then I could also uncreate it. And that was what I set out to do. So there were some things that I did, like making my own affirmation tape that I listened to every morning while I did yoga, doing particular visualizations, hypnotherapy to get rid of some of the demons that were still in my life that I hadn't gotten rid of yet, that I felt could be contributing to the stress and things that could create dis-ease in my body. So I handled those, and I think if we handle things mentally and emotionally, then it allows the body to do what it does naturally, which is repair itself. And I'm not saying that there's never a situation where you need Western medicine to help you along with that. I'm not judging any kind of treatment that anyone chooses. Certainly, if anything, at the time, everyone judged the choices that I was making as being absolutely insane. And I understand that. That's why for so many years, I didn't talk about what I did. But at the same time, my belief system was that synchronicity that allowed me to find the right doctor if what I was doing didn't work. So I made a backup plan just in case. I'm not an idiot, just crazy. And so I worked with a group of doctors that flew in every month, and we'd go out into what back then was just called the barrio, and do a clinic where we'd see, 100 or more people, from little kids to really old people with anything from little ailments to very serious ailments, that would just line up and come to see these doctors on a monthly basis. And I was the person that checked them all in and found out, what their issues were. My Spanish was much better back then, and pointed them, got them to the right doctors. So we did that on Saturday, and then on Sunday morning, we'd all come right here to the office and have breakfast. So when they came that month, I brought my films, or whatever they call the mammogram things, and I showed them to one of the doctors that knew how to read them. And he said, well, looking at these, I would recommend to you this particular doctor in Salt Lake City. I worked with him at Loma Linda. What was he? As an intern or something. He worked with this doctor, and he said he's a cutting-edge oncologist that teaches all over the world. And I thought, that's amazing. Hi, Shelley. Nice to have you here. It was just such amazing synchronicity. And I said, wow, I booked a timeshare exchange to Park City a couple months ago. And we never go anywhere but Colorado. So I wondered at the time what made me decide to book this resort in Park City. Never even thought about going there before. And then it just ends up that a couple months later, this particular doctor that's being recommended to me is in Salt Lake City. And the reason I ended up giving myself 30 days was I had 30 days from the time I talked to this guy until our vacation, or from my diagnosis to my vacation, to take care of this myself. So that was my time frame. It was, I will do what I can do in 30 days, and then we'll see where it's at when I get up to this doctor. And it just ended up that he was scheduled to come back from teaching in Russia right before I was going to be there. So everything worked out perfectly. And I think it happens, again, because of your mindset, because of your belief system, because of where you are in alignment within yourself, that creates these situations. Not going through everything in between, but when I went to him, he did end up being the perfect doctor for me, because when I pulled out my sheet of all the things I was taking and I told him all the things I'd done, he didn't think I was crazy. So it ended up being a really great situation, and everything worked out well. I didn't have to have surgery, and that part of this is all covered either on the radio show I did or in other articles I've written as far as the details. Hi, Andy. And so, let's see, what else was I going to talk about? So the catalyst of change for me started the instant I walked out that door. I think I mentioned last week that it was like in The Wizard of Oz, opening the door and realizing you're not in Kansas anymore. You go into a building as one person, you come out of that building as a completely different person. And in that moment, I really felt like this was a big wake-up call, that I hadn't been listening to the little pebbles that were being thrown at me. A few boulders must have gone by, and I needed that big whack with a 2x4 to make me pay attention. Because I'm a Taurus, I am stubborn, I am bullheaded, and I will just put my head down and push through when things get difficult. And I'm sure that's what I'd been doing. So all the signs that I was getting, I wasn't paying attention to, that I needed to change my life. And like I mentioned, in that moment, I felt like my work here was done. It was time for me to leave Cabo. I didn't know where I was supposed to go. I certainly didn't know what I was supposed to be doing. But I knew that this segment of my life was over. And so in the aftermath, I don't remember now. Oh, I also, at the time of diagnosis, which was in May, I had already booked a more than 3-week trip to China, and this was in '99 when they were just getting ready to do the Three Gorges project that was going to dam the Yangtze River, and there was going to be all kinds of very historical villages that were going to be underwater. And I saw that in Condé Nast magazine, so I said to my husband, I said, why don't we go to China? There, you know, if you go with a guide, Americans can now go to China. So we went with a small group of 12 people, and that was a trip that was already booked. So when I had this diagnosis, the first thing my husband said was, we should probably cancel the trip to China. And I said, no, it's going to be fine. I'm still going on the trip to China. So I didn't cancel it. In the meantime, I had already, I think just a few months, must have been like a month before that, flown up to Scottsdale and bought a house that I was going to go back and forth and remodel just as a project to do and flip that house. And so then my husband wanted to second guess, you know, whether that was a good idea. And so we decided, when I said I really feel like I'm supposed to leave here, and then I got the feeling I was supposed to go to Scottsdale, and I'm thinking, is that why I bought that house? That it wasn't to flip it, it was because I was going to need it? And I thought, no. I am an ocean girl. I am a beach resort girl. I do not do big city. I don't do the middle of the desert. There must be something wrong. This can't be where I'm being sent. And I just increasingly was getting this feeling that was where I was supposed to go. So the whole, I can't remember the time frame exactly, because the signing of the papers and everything for the house was done with them FedExing papers to us in China at various hotels that we were at. I remember talking to them on the phone from Beijing and from Shanghai, and the time difference, and trying to get the papers and all that. It was crazy. And so all of that led to me going to Scottsdale and living in that house, not having a clue why I was there or what my life purpose was, what I was supposed to be doing. I literally prepared with my spiritual practice, and also going through Tony Robbins' whole big month-long program, his original program, and right now I can't remember, was it Personal Power? Doing that in a way that I had never done it before, where the things that I was writing, that I was journaling, were so much bigger than anything I had ever thought about before, that I knew something big was coming. And it was 11 months before that happened, and I figured out what my life purpose was and what I was supposed to be doing. And everything changed for me. I became an author, speaker, doing live seminars, empowering women to become entrepreneurs and create their own information products. And it was exactly what I'm supposed to be doing with my life. And I'm so happy to now, after a 5-year hiatus, be back to doing what I'm supposed to be doing, with the addition of health and wellness and the umbrella of ageless life and business, and not just the business and personal growth stuff that I was doing before. So it's been a huge transition, a wild ride in all those years that I could have never imagined. But it's important to be open to those shifts in your life, to waiting 11 months to figure out what you're supposed to do with your life is a long time. And And sometimes it requires patience, and it requires belief that the answer is coming. So that's a big part of it. And maybe at some point I'll tell you the story of how that all happened, because it's a pretty amazing story. Especially for people that are always saying, you know, I don't know what my life purpose is, I don't know what my passion is. That was, you know, those were the things I started my business with, is helping people figure those things out. So, you know, that's my breast cancer story in 2 parts from beginning to end. It was the catalyst for changing my life, giving me my life purpose. I've always said that breast cancer diagnosis was the biggest gift I've ever had in my life, and that's how I choose to see it. And the thing is, trying to hang on to the good feelings and the gratitude that I got through that process and beyond is something that you have to do consciously to stay in that space. And then also to be continually changing your home environment, the chemicals. Please do something about getting the chemicals out of your home. It is so easy. The products that I use are so safe. They don't even require child-proof caps. And there's, like I said, no harmful chemicals at all. And they're cheaper than what you get at the grocery store and delivered right to your home. So it couldn't be any easier to make these shifts and changes in your life and what you're having in your home, changing the food you eat, changing the stress in your life. Those really are the biggest factors, and they're all in your control. So if there's anything that I can do to help you through this process, comment on the blog, email me if you're on my email list, or, you know, private message me on Facebook, wherever it is that you're seeing this. And I really, if you have any questions at all, please contact me. So I think that's it for this week. And I will see you here next week, same time, same bat channel. Talk to you next week. This is Lynn Pierce saying goodbye from the Office Restaurant in Cabo San Lucas. See you next week.